So
This
we might as well-
conference will now be recorded.
I do have a hard stop at 8:50, so when I get up and leave, it's not because of you guys. So with that, we'll start the Audit Finance Committee meeting. Skip the chairman's comments, review of financials. Those financials were sent out, so hopefully you had a chance to review them. Anybody have any questions or comments with regard to the financials?
Looking good.
Looking good.
Looking good.
It looks okay. Remember, we got 3 months to go.
Mr. Optimism.
Jody, any comments from your perspective?
No, as pointed out, we're doing a lot better than we did last year at this time. Overall, this past month, we did have a deficit of about 6,000. Or more than make up for that by, we haven't charged the funds yet. And hopefully we'll close on Skyline Hospitalities in November. So that'll be another 205,000.
Good. That's all. Also included in the packet, not only do you have the year-over-year comparison from year end to the adopted budget and the difference, but you have a proposed budget. So as opposed to jumping or going through each one individually, I'll just put them together. And so do you have any questions? Obviously, there is progress this year with the other revenue streams have increased, and looks like we'll, in the projected budget, we're not projecting quite as robust of a year, but still an okay year. Any particular commentary on the adjustments or the projections?
For the draft budget.
For the draft budget, yes.
So I actually did the draft budget this year. It's an evolving document, so I'm happy to take any criticisms that you might have. Different from Jody's budget, I put in grid lines because I couldn't see. So, yeah. I also put 24 in the first column because that's what you're approving. So I moved that over. Most of my numbers match Jody's numbers for the most part. I was a little more conservative in some places, but he was like, you can't have a deficit. So I don't, I mean, pilots are, pretty self-explanatory. We did raise the rent for, 139 Commerce, that rent has been raised. Cade's rent, we raised, IOXIS's rent, and Southern Tier 8. Southern Tier was only paying us 100, now they're paying us 200. So, what else did we do here?
Under Otsego County appropriation, that's more than all the change, you think?
So yeah, so obviously they gave us 275 last year. Jody's requesting 400. We won't know until November, so I made a nice 175. So obviously my numbers will change if that changes. I was optimistic that we would get at least 275 again, but Jody told me that I shouldn't be that optimistic. So it's better to under guess than
I agree.
forget. So yeah, I left it at 175.
Just don't share this with anyone else.
the world. Foothills obviously on here.
Does that, just so I could ask a question, for all you conservative people, does that mean we're sitting here waiting to get whatever we get, or if they don't give us what we should get, we're going to argue that we need it for our budget? I mean, to me, I want to put all of the 400 or more and be a little sideways if that didn't happen. I don't take failing easily either. They should take care of us. They should do what we've talked about.
So Jody gave them a budget the other day at IGA, and you're going back again, right? I don't know what meeting he's going to, but he took his budget. So I would argue that he could say that.
No, we made the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once again,
They have not made a recommendation on the IGA to the main board, I don't believe.
No, they haven't.
Okay, so in my monthly report. I did meet with the IGA committee this week. I presented what we spent their $275,000 on. I also went through what we're currently working on as far as projects. And then I presented the budget request for $400,000. We have a meeting on November 2nd at 10 o'clock with the IGA committee to review in detail the budget. So we'll have a second opportunity to be increased. I know there is support by a number of county reps to give us an increase. They, again, being conservative, we're putting $2,000 in. We hope to get more than that.
Do you want all of us to come to that meeting?
That would be nice.
Shoot us a calendar and
I'll forward you Carol's email. And if we can make it, that would be nice. At 10 o'clock at the county office.
Like smack dab in the middle of the day.
So what are you saying you're using the additional money for? What are you saying you're using the additional money for? Because you have a break-even budget here, so what expenses are you light on? Or initiatives that you'd be funding with that
We're
additional money?
currently showing
Oh, okay.
the budget that I had worked on, that I actually showed Cheryl, showed we had about a $200,000 deficit. So that's.
Okay, so we're dealing with a couple of different budgets, is that it?
We sat down yesterday and reviewed the budget.
Yeah.
So we sat down, Megan and I, and the team sat down yesterday and went through my budget and their budget.
Because he still made a draft budget for 2024
To compare.
to compare mine, because this was my first. So I'm presenting my budget. He was optimistic that we would get pilots this year, so he had a number in there that I didn't.
And Megan included numbers in her budget that I didn't include in mine, which is for the Appalachian Regional Commission reimbursement of salaries for. So those are really the differences. The other thing in the justification I'm making with the county to give us $400,000 is to give us ability to join the retirement system, or I did talk to another company yesterday about an IRA account, as well as right now, with any surplus we have in our budget, and in this budget that Megan is presenting, we don't have much of a surplus.
19,000?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have expenses that occurred during the course of the year that are unbudgeted. For example, we did appraisals this year on properties. We had to have the 139 Commerce Drive do a environmental assessment of the building.
Apple.
So those are other expenses that we occurred throughout the year that aren't budgeted. The other issue that we have, and that I've explained to the county board of the IGA committee, is that right now, any surplus we have is basically offsetting our deficits. And that money should be going into capital projects. It's going to cost us $89,000, for example, to resurface Commerce Drive. You know, and that we've got to do that in order for the town to take over the ownership of the road.
Stadium Circle.
Stadium Circle Drive.
Soccer field, soccer field.
Right.
Right now, we'll be spending roughly $400,000 on Richfield Springs out. If we don't have that surplus going into capital projects, it becomes difficult for us to.
Yeah, once again, I
Yeah.
don't all of us here understand,
Yeah, I think the idea is showing that here, right? So
but
as you're.
I mean, I would have someone, I'm not gonna say aggressive, an insistent stance that is completely justified and we need it to support the county the way we're supposed to.
And we may be jumping, because, right, you've already presented, we may get it, right, there may not, but I think Tricia's point is making sure some of that stuff's showing in the budget, so as you're presenting your case or understanding, truly, we're understanding what kind of deficit we might be experiencing, trade-offs can then be made, right, we say, okay, we're not gonna pay, we're not gonna do these things, but really understanding where you guys do want those, there might be a capital investment kind of
And just have a capital budget.
Yeah,
Things that are
right.
there and that, you know, and the importance of that, right?
And if we don't have the funds and we don't have the offsetting, then we have to say, hey, we're not going to do it. But, you know, to be able, for us to have that visibility, I think is important.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I did a capital budget and attached it to this budget, and I decided now that we're gonna just do a separate capital budget
Okay.
as opposed to trying to incorporate it into the operating budget. So we'll start work on that next week.
Operationally, it costs $400,000 to open the doors, turn on the lights and pay everybody and provide benefits. The county is obligated to the minimum support the operation, whether we do anything or not. And it's pathetic. But I wouldn't say that, to them. Maybe I would.
That probably wouldn't be.
No.
Depends what they say.
They don't listen to you, Mike.
Not
Everybody,
really.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
once
once
again,
again,
$300,000.
Just one quick question. I see we have Hodgson Roth doubled this year from our budget last year.
For 24.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
they didn't give us a bill last year, right? And we know that they're working on
I
Richfield.
was gonna say, is it predominantly
So-
Richfield?
You thought that he was gonna charge,
So you're kind of planning 24 is gonna be a bill from 23.
potentially.
Okay.
I don't think they give you a bill. They give me a bill all the time.
Well, you should ask.
Right on target. I come on every month, I get my bill, fully itemized. That's not good
The
practice.
problem last year with Russ was that they sent us a bill, tentative bill, and I asked them for a breakdown of the project. And they had difficulty in trying to figure out what the breakdown was.
That's kind of scary.
So they never sent us a project.
Okay, well, expires after.
And they're doing all that work on Richfield.
Well,
The
yeah.
bill's coming.
Yeah.
And he said that.
Yeah.
Well, so Hudson Russ doesn't even want to get the bills that are due, their billable hours within the year that they're billable.
Yes.
That's odd.
They gave those. Well, I think part of the thing was that we did a number of pilot projects last year and this year. So they get a good fee from those pilot.
Yeah, I know
projects.
well, let me just say, if that's the case, we ought to know what exactly happens. In other words, if the pilot is this big, the offset to their bill is this much. I mean, if they're forgiving quote part of their bill, the equation ought to be known for us to plan. I mean,
If it's the
that's-
guess, yeah. Yeah, we don't know.
I mean,
what's-
that doesn't make any, that's not a business, is it?
Look at the
Not that I know.
the task force on phone and otherwise with Richfield Springs would be.
That's what the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the cost alone
Mhm.
for them representing us in Richfield Springs?
That's
Just
why
aggressive.
Megan budgeted at least 25,000. It may actually.
No, I've
be
made
more.
it
10. So and it sounds like you two might still have some more kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of aligning on.
It is a good training.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And we'll get it out to you in enough time for October.
Okay.
You're not gonna keep that much cash in your checking account, and that's good.
I mean, we had this discussion about moving cash. I think we kept it on hand for Richfield, right? And
Yes.
Still accessible either way. I think it's a little more interest.
Depends on where you put it.
yeah, if we lock it in we had the CD that matured after a year. We only locked that in for 6
But
months.
even
so.
just the money market,
Just a little bit,
it's moved, just.
yeah. It was a
Something
little
to be
bit.
aware
It's
of.
really,
No, I
it's really.
I had to be aware of that 10 years.
No, I mean, the audit says, Mary says that to us
Every
every
year,
year,
yeah.
that we should have it. Well, they didn't say it last year because it wasn't Mary, it was Jason, but still, I think it's.
Well, the opportunity in the last few months, just because of the inverted yield curve, has
Am I wrong?
provided the opportunity to get a 5% return
Right,
Yeah.
right.
on, insured money in a bank. But you have to figure out the timing,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right? That's always the key. If you need to get your hands on $500,000, you can't tie it up. But
But even the,
You have to-
even the 5% are accessible to the minute.
they're not, 5% money markets aren't out there. You can't get demand money at 5%. You can get term money at
we
5%.
lose the percentage.
Yeah, but if you put it in increments, the odds that you're gonna have to take it all out.
Right, you gotta land.
Like, you
You
know,
gotta lay it out.
if you want to put 100,000, put 10 in for 10,000 apiece, you have to pull one or two. You still.
That's where projects comes in. So when we start talking about when the money has to come out.
But it should be, if you get 5 plus, it shouldn't be sitting in the chair.
Not difficult, I would look at.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's quite frankly, double what we need to cover Richfield.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You can certainly get
Some people in the room are exceedingly risk averse.
And we have the timing of Richfield down to science.
Oh, we do. We do.
We're not approving it.
Unless you want to do the bills, because you do have a.
Well, okay.
I can bring that up, or you can bring that up.
Any other questions on the financials or the budgets comparison or the draft? No. Okay. So there is a little bit of unfinished business. We canceled a board meeting because we just didn't have enough agenda items. Oh, was it two?
Yeah.
Okay. So they passed on the bills, and as long as we have a quorum, we'd like to review it and approve it at this committee meeting.
So moving forward, we're not approving anything at committees because we rarely have a quorum. So moving forward, everything will be done at board. We'll still pay our normal operating expenses, but anything that's unusual, we'll keep to board because we usually always have a quorum there. But we're only doing this because we actually do have a quorum today, and the list
And
is
it's a
getting
catch-up.
rather long.
Yeah, it's a catch up here.
So if there's any questions about any of the bills that are on here, we're happy to answer them. The ones that are down, the expenses that are down towards the bottom, those have all been paid already. Just seeking approval on those, and the ones at the top have not been paid yet.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Dave.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Great, thank you. Done with that committees. Sir?
Okay. We're ready for project?
Yes, sir.
I've got nothing to say, which is rare. Jody, got some project trackers to review for us? Anything going on?
We're still working on the Richfield Springs. We submitted all the paperwork on having the town being joint co-applicant. One of the problems is that they have a new reporting system that does away with the DUNS numbers and converts it to a UEI number. The town actually went and tried to get that done in February of this year. But as part of the process, this federal government sent them an email to confirm that this is your UEI number, and they never responded to that email. So as such, it's still not in the system. So I reached out to the town and asked them if they could please correct this. EDA sent me a direct number for them to call and try to set up an account for them. So that's what's holding up the paperwork on that end. This is the third time this town has sent me a new number. We did get some correspondence back, which I discussed, I think, at the last meeting, that DEC has requested that we try to do some avoidance of stream crossings by 100 feet, which is possible because we can move the roadway back in a little bit, which would clearly alleviate what they have. I've been working with Keystone, had 2 meetings with them to go down and review the maps that they're working on, and we're now on the 3rd attempt to make the corrections correct. So hopefully we'll resolve that by the end of the week, or the end of next week. And we did get a bill from Angel Construction. One is for the sign that we had to have installed in order to start construction. And the second is the reimbursement for their bonding, getting bonds for their project. They've confirmed that they still are interested in wanting to move ahead with the project. And there'll be probably a couple of change orders that'll be initiated early on. One is because we're moving the roadway back, there's less materials required, so it would be a credit to us on the change order. And I did talk to Hunt Engineering, and they're finalizing construction contracts. And we'll get those board attorneys to review before we sign anything. So that's kind of what's going on.
We don't know for sure whether there's gonna be anything done this fall.
No, I don't. If we're lucky, they'll be able to at least do trenches and get some of the pipe in, but I don't think we're gonna do the roadway this year.
That plants will be closed out.
The hope was we still had October time to,
I mean, I think the good news is that we're no longer dealing with town, village issues. We're now dealing with mostly the DEC, or NEC, which is, anybody that's worked with DEC knows.
So on the rail yards, we did have a company that I met with. It's a gymnasium that's currently running space in May. They are looking to put up a 5,000 square foot gym. They were interested in the property that is adjacent, our property that's adjacent to Mr. May's property. I asked them, one of the problems that they have is that a 5,000 square foot building, ballpark figures in the cost of $1 million. And do they have that kind of money? Can they raise that kind of money? To go ahead with construction. They indicated they could. And I said, well, when you get closer to having a financial plan, let's come back and see us and we'll start talking more in depth about this property. There's very little help we can give them with grant assistance. I did say that they could probably get an ESD grant for up to 20% of the project, or $1,000. But Empire State Development, it's a gamble. Small cities, that most will get is $75,000. Originally, on this, the jobs they were talking about, they said 10, 15, and then the one that was with them said, "Are you kidding? 3 at most." So that most of the small cities is about 75,000, which on a $1 million to project. But they seem to hold money to building a new facility. Keep track on that. We did get a request from Ed May to purchase a right of way along his property. He wants to put a new roadway in to make his circulation easier on his property. Dave has been, I had a small problem with my car a couple weeks ago, so Dave took over and was able to meet with one of the contractors from the city.
Gore. We have a huge depression on the quarter of that property. The Gore would be willing, they're interested in putting their fresh concrete in there for us. Met with Dominic Serentani. We're just waiting to get a release form from them that we can turn over to Kurt, make sure that, you know, they sign what we need signed, we sign what they need signed. Looks like they're willing to do that. It's close. It's going to probably save them a little bit of money. Minimal, if any, rerod in this concrete, so I don't think there's any issues with it. Let's see what happens. They're getting ready.
How crushed is it? I mean, how
That, I think they call it pulverized concrete. It would be something you could pave over. You know, no organic material.
good clean fill?
Yeah, they're waiting, I think, right now. It's nice that it has tremendous amount of work to do done. Because there were 3 big transformers in part of the parking garage. Those all have to go. So they're putting up poles down there. And but I think they're getting pretty close to proceeding it.
So Nazim sent out requests for proposals to 3 or 4 survey companies for them to have property surveyed. The other reason I think Mr. May wants that strip along the side of the property sites for the roadway improvement, which we would have an easement to use that roadway, is that his sewer line is on our property. And so that would his concern that we would build on top of the sewer line.
There's something strange that took place. The gas water runs along the road, and the sewer runs parallel to the railroad tracks in the rear of those properties. That's pretty unusual to see that take place, but who knows?
So that's kind of the update on the rail yards.
Mhm.
Um, On the Innovation Center. Tammy, I'll give you much more detail before the next meeting, but he's been doing a lot of meeting with people.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
networking. But some tangible projects are coming out of it, you know, not directly related to a product to manufacture, but definitely things that will foster a strong impression of resources and awareness of the welcoming of manufacturing and idea generation.
Jody, any movement or activity with York Modern?
game,
Yeah.
Well, since,
So
has the whole board been involved in up to speed on what's going on?
Well, we haven't met in a while, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe you could give us one of you visited too, right?
yeah.
People, make them aware of what's going on.
Okay. So I have been in touch with York since June, and they are in need of updating their software that,
but first of all, does everybody know who?
oh,
York is?
York,
York Rake.
right, okay, and Unadilla.
It's an actual brand. I mean,
Yeah.
it is the rate.
I've heard of it. So
Big,
they're,
big picture, they have a hole in the roof too, and they
yeah,
actually can't
they've
deliver
got some-
stuff and they're like broken,
right.
not functional. Well, you know, but the stuff isn't coming out the end of the. For a lot of reasons. But anyway, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, you covered it.
I'm quick to the point.
And so we sat around, Jody and I and the village mayor and the town supervisor met with them in September. And we talked about them with the village pursuing a community block grant. Nothing seems to have gotten traction with that aspect. And then they knew about the resources in the advanced industry manufacturing services, which is a one of several manufacturing partnerships that are throughout New York State. And so our county is in the territory of the one that is associated with MBCC, so it's called AIM. So they've been in contact with their technical support service, and so there's that gentleman's access to process engineers is arranging for visits so that then they can survey, you know, how they do things, and then they come back and offer recommendations of efficiencies and such. I was thinking that some of the lack of progression moving forward from York could have been that their annual shareholders meeting was this past Saturday, the 7th. So I've looked into a revolving loan program with the MBEDD. They're obviously, you know, eligible for that. That's going to be my next communication with them.
My concern, sitting where we are, is since they've been scribbling, and the CEO left 4 months ago,
3 years ago.
3 years ago, whatever.
But yeah, they
got
just
some
had
ladies in
this
the office trying to work this.
contrition.
Shouldn't we, to do
retirement.
due diligence would be the best, is first look at the books, what do they got? Before we start spending, you know, get them a roof and get them some money, can they get out of this? You know, what kind of financial standing are they on? You know, once again, it's a national brand. It has value just in the name, but, you know, before
Is it a public company?
the president.
Shareholder meeting.
I'm sorry,
I don't know that they're shareholders or owners.
is it closely held or is it public?
We don't know.
Closely.
Is it?
Closely held, so what is
They
their?
have unissued shares.
No, I'm talking about owner, who owns it today?
Would they say 32?
I thought it was 27, but some, I mean,
Uh,
bizarre.
2 to 3 does be.
So nobody's a majority shareholder and they don't have succession planning, they don't have management in place?
Correct. It's rudderless. That's what I'm saying. Before we, yeah, and they can't produce any rake. So, you know,
So who are you dealing with?
we take their, what's going on, you know, blood pressure, you know, cholesterol, where are we? What are they? What are their assets? I mean, if they're,
How do you not have a CEO though? Like, that's, I mean,
well, they're just keeping on, you know, they come to work every day probably and, you know, try to keep it going. But I mean, looking at the pictures they have machinery that the company's 100 years old, and I think that stuff was there when they opened. So I'm not quite, but anyway, it's not modernized by a far cry. So, you know, to me, I don't know. We talk about finding a grant and everything else. We need to assess the state of their condition completely, broadly, before we could recommend a.
Yeah, screens all kinds of questions.
That's what I ended up with. And yes, I mean, I think for us to be involved, we ought to decide the things we want to know and then ask the questions. I would before I expended my time. You know, I'm not waiting for them to tell me or they're gonna figure out what somebody can do.
How did they get to you?
I was gonna say that.
They, this spring, were seeking financial assistance.
Who was?
Beth Baldwin,
She works at
part-time.
the company, what's
she's
her,
a shareholder.
See, I'm not sure
Like
like
I
ESOP
said-
or something. I don't know what.
Yeah, they have the chief fiscal officer still, who's now kind of like running the company. Is that what I?
well, that's where I'm going. Who's,
Yeah.
I don't know who would be associated and considered CFO.
So don't we need to know something first before we start? I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the things. All right.
all the questions we're asking need to be asked. And so we know who we're dealing with, who has the authority to deal on behalf of the company. What do they really need? What are they asking for? Just to have one shareholder call you and talk about it, they might not speak for the leadership.
Oh, no, she's a shareholder and an employee.
Understood.
Right, still an employee doesn't shareholder mean.
So they
And so she and the plant manager are,
Still not empowered to make decisions for the current, for
well,
that.
I,
Necessarily, they can talk, but once again,
well, at our meeting, they were asked point blank if any of their decisions needed shareholder approval, and they said no. But I said what I said about the shareholder meeting maybe having an element of why, we hadn't heard back, maybe why they're holding back on,
maybe
Anyway.
hopefully something came out of shareholder meeting that there's clarification. Someone's going to be in charge. Somebody's going to be the point person. Or maybe not.
let me say, time is not our friend in this instance, if it's dying, so if they want to get, if we're going to help them, blue light flashing in the paddles and go after them again, or not. I mean, but if they don't want to give us some information to me, that's one man's opinion, so we can intelligently assess, do they have a chance of survival? And what's the plan? Then, I question how much time and effort we spend. And certainly, state money is still taxpayer money. And if, they're going to go broke in 3 years, there's no sense finding a couple $100,000 so we can add to what I don't see a sense.
yeah, well, a lot of the financial information that you're interested in comes about when they apply for a revolving loan or, a community development block grant. And so to me, before we need to pull that information from them, we need to see their self-motivation. And right now, we don't see it. So therefore, we're not, consuming a lot of our time with that.
Okay, I think,
Yeah, I think, it definitely, we're all business people, so we're kind of like, this makes no sense. right, bottom line. But I think to the point is as long as we're not spending our energy, I don't know that we need to dive in deeper
Probably not, but if
in a way that starts to push those buttons,
Right.
right?
There's a couple.
Their business, right, ultimately.
Right.
One is they don't have a cheap. That's what we
Well,
all know.
I mean, the whole, it screams.
You're probably shivering like
Screams.
you're going crazy right now, huh?
I mean, like, I don't even understand the function. Like, people just show up and they work and who pays,
For
who
3
pays,
years.
who gives them the salary, who pays their check, right? Like, right, who's doing that? Are you coming to work? Are they coming to work and sitting there?
Let me say this, sometimes people are in a situation where the people involved don't know what to do. And it could be saved, but they don't know how. You know, they're clerks that went to work every day and kept books and counted paper clips and everything, good people, but do they know how to work their way? They have a financial person or, you know, once again, it's a national brand, it employs people, it's local, it's still here. You know, somebody buy that thing and take it to Arkansas or somewhere and build them for less and we lose. So once again, I agree with you in that if they don't want to help themselves, I'm a sucker for trying to sell it and try to save it, but
We're related to helping themselves. I had Tammy send them copies of what we would require, which is just an income survey of their employees, just to confirm that their business is eligible for community development block. They never returned that to us. And if they were eligible, then we would start proceeding with our due diligence in order to put together a grant application, which is a business plan, it's just all their financials, 3 years of back taxes, 3 years of their.
Can we get their organizational
financials.
structure when if we get that?
Yeah, we can, what you said, the organizational documents.
so you're probably right. I'm trying to help somebody who doesn't want to take it over.
I mean, I think before we try to run their business, I think there's kind of the, here's our outrage, here's what we can do for you, but here's what you've got to do.
Sounds like we've already done it. That's pretty much great, yeah. My suggestion was that could Raymond Corporation, which makes products not unlike,
We talk about you talk.
is there somebody from Raymond Corporation that could do an assessment? You know, because of their expertise of whether they should just lock the doors and walk away or, you know.
Well, that's one of the reasons we brought in AIM, because they do that assessment. They've worked with.
Great. So we thought.
Yeah, I think it's just connecting them with, you know, here's some
Yeah.
resources that might.
Unbelievable. What
Yeah.
AIM has worked with Ionis with custom electronics. They've worked with the Raymond Corporation. So they have that expertise.
Yeah.
to go in and do very analysis.
Can we nudge the involvement? You know, if they don't answer your phone, I guess you can't. I hate to see people
There's no
crying.
one to answer the phone.
Well, the gentleman from AIM and I are keeping in touch, and our approach is tag teaming. So we touched base last Thursday, and so he updated me on his conversation with the
So
plant
he is
manager.
talking,
Oh, yes,
Oh.
it's established, yeah.
We've been helpful.
I hate to lose.
Now their turn.
Yeah,
So you're saying we're gonna get a more thorough report on the innovation center in the next board meeting or next committee meeting? So again, I'm still very curious, like who's in the funnel, where are they in the funnel? So I don't need it today, but.
yeah, and I knew that's where you
Okay.
were at, and at this point, the funnel has not changed since July.
Okay,
The projects have, the individuals have stalled. Again, you know, I'm nudging them, you know, and they say, oh, yep, I'm working on answering your questions, and there it is.
yeah, I'm curious in terms of where people have had successful innovation centers, what kind of fallout rate or stall rate exists. It might be good to just benchmark against that to understand, and what are the common causes for stalling or kind
Yeah.
of falling out.
Mhm.
I think that's gonna be a pretty high percentage, my
It
guess would
could
be.
be, the response could be the valley of death. Where, you know, every product, every idea, you know, needs investment and not necessarily always money. You know, it needs time investment. And it can even, you know, companies can even experience or induce their own internal valley of death of, oh, we've got this new idea and, you know, but then it just keeps getting pushed to the back burner. And so that's, you know, that's a very, very common
Yeah, I think I mean, to learn from it, because if this is gonna be successful, how do we get people and what do we need to do at what point in time to help people through that valley, right? And through that stall or that fallout, if we're going to be successful. It doesn't, in my opinion, make much sense to invest money to get people's ideas. Okay, we've got your idea, great, but then it never goes anywhere. And if we aren't seeing some kind of movement consistently, what are we really accomplishing?
Well, I agree with you. What's the national average? How's it?
Correct, yeah, I'm gonna
I don't
get
know
the
what
guy
happens
high.
if we're going blind.
Yeah,
The name tells you all you need.
what's that?
The name tells you all you need.
Yeah, I know, right?
Definitely.
Joe, do you have anything you haven't mentioned on the director's report? You got it all done?
Pretty much what's in my director's report.
Okay.
The IOXIS is moving ahead with adding new engineers to their thing. It's in my report, and Apple Converting is looking to invest another $3 to $4 million in new equipment. And they're in the process of cleaning up the building that we're leasing to.
The micro enterprise report, anything?
Yeah, I haven't really updated you guys on that, but applications for micro enterprise, we're administering the county micro enterprise program. Applications were due July 31st. We got 36 applications. It was over $1 million in requests. We only have 283,000 because 17,000 is going to us for admin and program delivery. So very competitive. We got a committee together. They went through, they did the committee awarded. I went to IG on Tuesday. I presented that list. They approved the list. And then I'll go to admin on the 20th. They'll approve the list, hopefully. And then it'll go to the full board on November 1st. And then we can actually start doing the projects. I have the list here if you guys want to hear. So
Do you want?
it's on admin.
Okay.
They already know. So, and these people know because they have to do small business training and that's next week. So I had to let them know early so that they could take that class. So is the Red Barn Farm and Brewery, got 35,000. That's the former Pie Sky property in Otsego. Local Bird got 11,700. That's a retail and screen printing shop in Cooperstown. Captain Cook Seafood Market down on River Street in Oneonta. It's a seafood market and bar. They got 22,000. Tech Knowledge, that's in Oneonta. They got 35,000. They provide support for innovators and creators. And he's worked with Tammy in the past. The Chief, which is in Skenevis, they're reopening the Chief, 35,000. Spurbeck's Grocery, which is a specialty grocery store in Cooperstown, got 11,700. 25 Main Collective, it's a gallery in Cherry Valley. They're going to open a cafe there. So they got 35. Sleeping Lion Farm, that's a farm in Springfield Center. They got 35,000. Trusted Twigs, that's a perennial nursery in Otsego. They got 28,000. It's tentative on them securing property though by the end of the year. They're about to close, and they're supposed to close November 1st. So if they don't do that, then the committee has decided that they'll award someone else. But we did give them till the end of the year. And then the last is Nectar Hills Farm. They're an apple cider vinegar production. They're getting an apple press equipment so that they can do everything on site instead of having to take it out. So they got 33. So that was the list. It was very hard. A lot of good projects on there.
You've got it spread across the
Yeah.
county. I really like that.
Yeah, we tried, and I mean, City of Oneonta has their own micro. So,
Right.
so the people in Oneonta who, Judy Kangman was on our committee. So the people in Oneonta who weren't awarded, she's going to reach out to them and they can just kind of redo the admin, try and, you know, so they tried to not do an emphasis on City of Oneonta just because, you know, someone with Skenevis can't apply.
So the
Sounds great
other
for you,
thing that's positive about this program, what Megan's been doing with it, is that because we had a need of over $1 million, the state is reassessing whether they, as opposed to every year applying for a new application, whether just to amend our current application.
Yeah, just keep it revolving.
Yeah.
It's the application process is a couple months and it's that pre-app and then a full app. Just if you have $1.6 million, we easily could have done 600,000. So
So it would be nice if we spent 300,000, they just allocated another 300,000 to our agency and not.
Okay, will there be a press release about handling this?
yes, but I want the full, because I haven't notified, well,
Yeah.
I haven't notified technically the other people just because these people haven't technically got them. And if there's an issue, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
But when.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure.
Great.
New and unfinished business?
I just have one I talked to Jody, if you go down to the rail yards and you look at the lot that Robinson Construction, who did the West Street project, and all kinds of other projects. They use it as staging area, and so then they cleared that lot into what I would call a finished grade of it, but it looks so much different than the other lots down there that the idea is there's three out of the 5 are contiguous on one side of the roadway, and it seems to me it would be worth our while to get those in the same shape that the lot that Robinson worked on. Somebody could actually go and look and see, it's a beautiful flat.
Yeah, Hunt Engineers is supposed to put together a proposal to clear the next 3 or 4 lots on the south side of the road away from the wetland. DEC says they have no problem with that because it's within 100 feet of the wetland.
So this goes to me when we're talking to the county about allocation. When we're living in survival, it's essential business only. We don't get to invest for the future. I mean, once again, I've been saying this since I've been on the board, to take somebody down to see that, drive through it, and you say, well, just imagine if it was all clear, it's not competitively presented. And so that would be 100%, we could fit it in a budget of making it presentable visually. So we've been actually trying to set something on there.
Yeah, I think even just that, using that as your justification for
Yeah, I mean, well,
improving
come on, that's not, we're not even.
curbside appeal.
I've got a list from talking with people on the construction roads. I think 7 excavating contractors within a 20-mile radius of Leon, that any one of them would be capable of doing.
Yeah, it would be hard driving.
We should.
And it's good winter work too.
So Robertson cleared the one they're on?
The one they were.
The one they
on.
were
They were up, they staged.
It's that one in between like Taco.
So we're looking at all the alternatives right now. Hopefully we'll be able to get those into a capital budget plan.
Sure.
To just do hard gravel on the part that's not paved right now, just to make it drivable.
Oil and stone.
Yeah, I mean, this again, for me, again, understanding vision, ultimately what we're doing, the rail yards, right, continues to be a pressing point for me, but I think these are great. When you look at our current property and you put together that capital budget, like where are, by property, what do we need to do? What are we looking to do, right? Because I do feel like we kind of somewhat ignore our properties until something goes wrong, and then we're reacting to it and not really reinvesting in the
100%.
property.
Now, one bit of business I have for the group is, I don't like to be wrong. I don't like people to think I'm wrong. You're surprised to hear that. Anyway, when I run into somebody, which happens too frequently, about why doesn't anything go on at the IDA? So we've had this come through, we've had a conversation. Things aren't going on. I mean, the money you got for custom electronics, I mean, we've done a lot of grants, helped a lot of people, but it's a well-kept secret. Why exactly is that? I mean, let me say, I'm not gonna blow my horn. The business, I'll market that because I should. But here, it's important that the public knows what we're doing. When we have a success, we ought to celebrate it. And not just once in a while. I mean, there are things that are getting accomplished. We need to tell people. So the mindset, the default conception of what the idea is positive. And that takes work. It's you're working on your image. We have a lot of things we can talk about that we should be. And just working hard, in a cave someplace, that's nice. You might put up a lot of literature nobody ever knows. So, we need to.
I mean, that was gonna be my question, is like, what medium are you looking to, I mean, it's out there. I mean, these
Yes.
things are right in different medium sources. Like ultimately my gut is I don't think it matters what we do. You're not gonna hit the people.
Well, let me
like,
just say, the challenge of communication, we all have it. And that is different, doesn't mean we can't still work at doing it. And
So like, what would be the recommendation there? Like, right, I mean, it hits multiple forums and it hits multiple mediums.
And I would say it would be, to me, the ones that are free, and Johnny Lunchbucket is on Facebook.
I don't know what mediums. I don't.
Well, we have a traditional press release.
Press releases.
It goes to the paper that nobody reads, So, I mean, it's very difficult, communication's fragmented, there's so many places.
But it'd be, I guess my point would be is as you're talking to these people, they're saying, it's kind of like, how would you expect to receive it? Where would you expect to hear it? Where would you expect to see it, right, ultimately, because,
Well,
right, is
I
it social media? Like, I would never see it, I'm not on social media, so I would never see it
The
there.
work we're doing in marketing Oneana, the people from the city and all their stuff, they're using all the media that would work. Is there?
I haven't seen a single thing, so I'm just gonna tell you from now, I've seen not a single thing on.
Yeah, you're not.
That could be, right?
No, you are not, and it's not here, but
Yeah.
if they use some, they know what to do. They can give us a presentation of what to do, or we can do it ourselves if we know. I mean, I do enough of it, Chris, I mean, he would come in and explain to us what we.
You're talking about the social media, like
Yeah,
a digital
absolutely.
marketing,
I-
yeah.
Was telling Jody yesterday that definitely, a marketing plan is definitely, applicable, go ahead, things, focus on, these are our stakeholder audiences, and this is the best way to reach them, and then,
Well, let me just say,
everything develops
stakeholders,
from
to
there.
me, for public opinion, the stakeholders, everybody. There's people we want to do business with, or we can help and everything else, but it's also the audience that's going to cheer you on, or don't
Right,
try to do
it's
anything.
County
So,
government,
well, it's also the
town
taxpayer.
government,
It's also the taxpayer,
mhm,
the guy who pays his taxes and says, what the heck are you doing?
yeah,
I mean, and
residents.
with social
Yeah.
media, all that stuff can be there if we have a consistent, it doesn't have to be overpowering, but put it out and we can do it in-house for little or no cost. All right, but we have to figure out how exactly we want to do that. We
Right.
don't necessarily need to pay someone else to do it. And networking and,
We've got, 10 stories we can post.
yes,
Yeah.
correct. And I think Richfield Springs, finally get, whenever that happens, if I live long enough, talking about that, I mean, it matters. Anything else we do matters. If something to clean up the rail yards, it matters. Got these sites ready,
Yeah.
when Manos gets in the other building, that matters. All these things are going on, and we're going through, like a bullfrog in boiling water. We don't know where cooked until it's done. We got to break it up.
Up until this year, it's been difficult to do any of those capital projects.
Yeah, I understand, Julia.
No, but I
understand.
I think even just look at the grants that you've done, right? The pilots you've done. I mean, it's a simple story, simply like,
That's what I'm saying.
helping this
No
business.
reflection on
Right.
what you're doing or not doing.
No.
It's telling everybody the positive things that are
And
happening.
I talked to Tammy, she's gonna be working on that, to do press releases on projects that we're doing.
But I think what we're saying is I don't think the traditional mediums and forums are hitting the right audiences or hitting the audiences at all,
Yeah.
right? Like, so essentially social media. I mean, I think that's what you guys are getting at.
Exactly.
Like, simply post a story. If you put a kind of a metric out there, a story a day or a story a week, whatever it might be, right? That allows you to kind of talk about
Get
businesses
permission
you've
from,
helped.
get permission from the person, have a picture posted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, join
Put
with
on-
the business that you
and put it
helped.
on- It goes on their Facebook, then it gets spidered out, something's going on, just for us.
So we
have that-
don't do that now. Do we update our website on those things, or do we?
Let me
do
website
social
you.
media?
Let me say,
I'm
yes.
just asking, I'm asking a question.
I
But
would
not
just-
like in the way that,
Okay.
It's pretty boring.
no,
No,
just
the way
like,
I'm
on
talking
like,
about.
like Ford Block, it's like
I can-
your
I can give you
resolutions and your
all the time.
pilot, and like no one's
looking at
on
that.
there looking to, no
I
one's
have a
on
lot
there as the
of stuff.
comptroller making sure that
I
it's
can give you
there.
a good example. We had a community foundation meeting, Patricia was there, Andrew was there. We were talking about the potential of the community foundation being involved in spurring investment. Let's put it
Right.
because it's not formalized. Excuse me, but one of the things that we brought up was micro enterprise grants, and there's some pretty savvy people sitting around that table that weren't aware that IDA was administering the micro enterprise grants and exactly what that entailed.
But what's surprising about that to me is that you're talking about social media. That's one thing that we spent money on, and that's why we got so many applications,
Right.
because I heavily pushed
Yeah, I
that
think
on
it's-
Facebook. So for them to not know that,
Well, what
it's
Tom's-
kind of, it's going
you may
against
not-
your point here, because.
What Tom's basically saying is that we're probably missing a group of people that
Yeah.
aren't really maybe social media
Well,
people.
Okay.
But again, it's like, oh, really? I'm
Well, what's
just $300,000 to micro.
There's a part of target marketing, which is the person you want to find. The other is communicating with somebody who isn't looking. Social media with somebody they know is, oh, what's this? You know what I mean? They go on our website if they're looking for some information. But we might talk to them through social media when they're not looking for anything. It just breaks preoccupation and we have their attention for a minute or two. It's people who don't know they are interested in what we're
For
doing.
the people sitting around the table here that are on social media, do you follow the Otsio Now Facebook page and have you liked it?
I have not even looked.
There you go.
Some of the point, right, is that this is it, for me, even before I got involved, this entity I didn't know it existed, right? Like, so I think the
Right.
idea is if you don't know what to look for, if you're not looking for it, you don't know. So,
That's why you need those shares, which is what.
Well, and I think-
If someone posts it and then someone who does follow us says it's a
Right.
great story or county rep. I mean, I had county reps share the micro enterprise and that just gets to their people and businesses.
Anyway, if we can become proactive in telling our story, anyway, any little thing, celebrate every victory. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll go by every small victory, right? We have something happens, it should be on social media and ask the person involved to friend it, his sphere of influence, oh, look at what he did. It'd be over time. It doesn't happen. It takes a long time, but it is difficult or expensive. And so to me, we have to blow our own horn. There's a lot that happened and the last 3 years have been getting ready to do something because we had the audit, we have other things to get our house in order. And I think we're coming to the point now where we can begin to be proactive. And telling the world what we're doing is one of the ways to get it going. One man's opinion.
Just, yes, right. And look, if you were trying to do something on Richfield Springs, you had 20 years to get ready. Sorry.
Anyway, any other new or unfinished business?
The only thing I would say is that it's pretty important for us to get a handle on what it's going to take to clean up those lots in the rear yard. And that's why we get some engineering criteria specs for these companies that they don't know, or you may get back bid. Once somebody walks those lots, see what's there, or what they need to remove, might be more expensive than I think.
Well, the city wants to put trails there too, right? So can it be like a
Yeah,
joint?
that's on the other side.
I just saying, I mean,
half-mile trail.
yeah, it goes to nowhere.
Any other business? Mark,
Me.
You want to walk around. It's a great place.
motion to adjourn?
Yeah.